Okay. Okay, great. So actually, Dan, let's see if there are any written questions. That's fine, if you wouldn't mind reading them. But also, I'm quite into the idea of anybody who wants to ask a question, just raise your hand and do it sort of live spoken. Or I mean, feel free to do it either way, basically. But if you would like to say a question, just go down to that thing called reactions, I think, and click on that. Let me just check I got this right. Yeah, and raise hand is in there. And that should take you to the top left of Dan's screen, I believe, and be easy, so you're easy to find.
Yeah, Henry, I don't have any questions in the chat box yet.
Well, let's just wait and see if any hands go up. And if it's fine, if they don't, we can, oh man, could we do more Marianne? Let's see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I've got one, Henry.
Okay, cool.
It has to do with, hopefully this isn't too off topic, but the ox herding pictures.
Yeah.
And it just coincidentally, towards the end of your book, you mentioned having the great death experience, and you considered that like 3 or 4 or something. I mean, here's my question, I guess. I was feeling like, I've been having these Kensho experiences. And so my visualization of it, right, is now I've got the bull by the nose ring and, the ox by the nose ring, and I'm being thrashed around. And so it surprised me to then have you say, oh no, I got to this place and this is only like step 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Did you feel that way beforehand, and then you sort of went, oh, I just didn't realize I was not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, first of all, I don't know what to say about anything that I've experienced so far. I wouldn't say categorically that was an X kind of experience, except maybe Kensho, But I'll tell you, there are different ways of understanding all this. Some people see the ox herding pictures really differently. They think that the ox is the mind, or something like that. So they have a really different interpretation. They think that sort of like we have to do some practice before we even realize that we're not at home in our own mind, so to speak, and that's discovering the ox, and then we have to tame the mind and kind of become more comfortable with it, with one another. And there's no real awakening in that view, or in that view, what awakening is radically different from the way we would understand it in our lineage. So in our lineage, by contrast, when we have an experience of Kensho, which means seeing original nature, it is, commonly you could call it an awakening experience, a sudden realization that what I've taken myself to be all these years, decades, is a very small part of a bigger picture, much, much bigger picture. And so my ordinary sense of self is gone, and instead there's some flavor of total belonging. And it could be that it's total belonging because all is one. It can be a little deeper, really, in a sense, total belonging because all is empty. And, you know, I say there are probably different levels of clarity and depth of that kind of experience. Now, we would consider that the third ox herding picture, which I think is similar to what you were saying, probably. But the thing is, it's true, of course, that, you know, it's if, especially if somebody's in a koan training, we think that you need that to really go through the koans. And I think there's sound reasons for that. And it's kind of painful if somebody hasn't had a clear experience to go through koans, because we're working with our minds, really, you know, and it's not supposed to be like that. They're supposed to open up what's already been opened further. You know, that's what koans are really for, to the point where we can live that reality quite naturally without having to lead a strange life or act weird. We can just be normal and it's present, you know, and that would be riding the ox home maybe. But in our line, where if you look at what these old masters say, you know, they'll say, you know, really, wow, that fourth ox herding picture, that's pretty rare. You know, a few people a century or something. They'll talk about it like that, like it's a real sort of, it's I mean, you can read that, and if you look at on the Sambo Zen website, there are some talks on these ox herding pictures by Kubota Roshi, who saw it rather like that.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there can be a deeper experience, you know, which they consider the fourth picture, which somehow has the capacity to erase the difference between awakened and not awakened. And that's a really amazing thing if we can taste that. It's such a liberation, it's such an ease, it's such a freedom. But they say thereafter, there's an almost inevitable danger that we'll be conscious of it, self-conscious of it. That's no good. So the fifth picture is about getting rid of any self-consciousness of having had some kind of, you know, more thorough awakening. And then, unfortunately, there may still be consciousness of being aware of having washed away awakening. Then you got to wash that away. That's the sixth ox herding picture. And at this point, Kubota says, you know, he's not sure that anybody really gets beyond the seventh. But you can see that it's a very nice sequence, because what happens in the sixth, the for those who don't know, the first picture with the ox is seeing the ox. The second one is sort of, they call it catching the ox. That's actually the fifth. Sorry, the third picture is seeing the ox. That's the first picture in which the ox appears. The next one,
like his hindquarters or something. It's just spy him on the other side of a tree or something. Yeah,
exactly. That's the third one. Then the fourth picture is seeing the whole ox and getting hold of it. Then the fifth one is taming the ox. The sixth one is riding it home, and the seventh one is back home with the halter, you know, the rope by which you've been leading the ox, hanging on the wall. No more ox in sight. And then the seventh one, that's the seventh one. And the eighth one is ox and self-forgotten. And then there's the ninth one, going back to the source. And the 10th is returning to the marketplace. So in the last four pictures, there's no ox. You know, it's like the whole business should be just washed away, forgotten.
So do you see it more as a metaphor for mind, or is it something entirely other, the ox?
Well, I mean, I think if you take it as the ox is merely sort of mind training, I don't think it's got any awakening in it. That's not what I consider awakening to be. And I think it's rather sad to take it that way, but some do. Fair enough, you know. There's probably wisdom in that. But for the reality is that people do have these rather beautiful, startling experiences of really a different kind of way of experiencing entirely. And I think that's something that merits recognition, in the sense of, like, it's good to know that humans can go through this. However, it's also very important, I think, to know that it's not an end in itself. I mean, it'll feel like that. It'll feel like an end in itself, feel like life's fulfilled now. And in some way, maybe that's true, but actually we're still alive. And what are we going to sort of do about it? So there is actually always further to go. And, the project just keeps getting bigger, so that, I mean, we need to get clearer always, no matter how, I don't know, how clear we may sort of feel. There's always more. And
Oh, thank God.
but more than that, there's the whole world to be helped. And so the project just gets larger and larger, and hopefully we're more and more ready for it, through practice. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Mark. Let's take anybody else.
Yeah, I have one in the chat box here.
Okay.
I love these retreats and get so much out of them, and my practice is getting deeper and deeper. Can you please comment about transitioning into the day-to-day life after retreat and staying grounded with outside life and people? I always feel quite fragile and sensitive after retreats and struggle transitioning out of the comfort of these retreats. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's very understandable, and I'm very sympathetic to that. Thanks for bringing that up. I mean, here are some thoughts. First of all, I mean, we know, don't we, that we're not actually sort of at any point in this practice finding something on retreat that isn't present, possible to be sensed all the time. We know that, right? I mean, it's not actually something so qualitatively different from anything that can be met in ordinary life, right? It's something to do with our very own heart mind that, is just having a chance to come forward more when we're on a retreat. So it is present. It's just that it's easier to have it be occluded when we're not in these quiet, still circumstances, conditions. But we know it's actually can't really not be present. It's more like, the sky is blue regardless of how many clouds there are obscuring it. It's still blue up there, and so if we have confidence in that, that's something. I would obviously, I mean, maybe I don't need to say this, but keep your regular daily sitting going. Just let it cruise on and see if you get a little sort of fizz of new liveliness in your daily sitting as a result of having done a retreat like this. A sort of scintillating peace might be there, when you do your daily sitting. Just keep it up. I think that for somebody who's a committed sitter and has been doing it long enough, meaning I don't really know exactly how long, but not in the first 2 or 3 years of establishing a practice, but probably a bit more than that. Maybe up the amount you sit if your daily life will allow it. Notice if there's a significant difference, for example, between sitting once a day for half an hour and sitting twice a day for half an hour. Many people will find there's a significant difference. If you're already sitting that much and you feel your sort of retreat clarity slipping away, if your life will allow it, try doing, an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, or something like that. There is a point probably around that range, actually. Sort of 2 sits in the morning, 1 sit in the evening, if you're doing our 25-minute style. that you'll find actually sustains a level of clear awareness throughout your life. There's some kind of quantity, like a minimum effective dose, that will sustain it. So that's another point. Another point would be well, maybe this comes out of the first one. It's just don't just sort of don't worry too much. It's all okay. Clear, not so clear. It's okay. If it's more a matter of like not wanting to, for example, there's a difference between, how would I put it? Like just maintaining some clear awareness, some peace and quiet, sort of pregnant joy kind of thing. There's that on the one hand. And then on the other hand, I'm contrasting that with, let's say, strong reactivity coming up, like really spinning out in whatever way might be your personal favorite flavor, and well, then that might need tending either with a bit more sitting or with some other what's the word, modality, maybe checking into so many forms of therapy around. Or, I don't want to be, I don't know the circumstances whether this is appropriate at all of me to say this, but there are many modalities of help, and you might just need to listen to 5 minutes of chanting or something, or or have some little slogan. I like that little ABC one that I shared recently in a weekly talk. I think awareness, balance, core. Just a quick little hit to be aware, check you're balanced, and check your core is relaxed. Your abs basically relaxed. That's a quick little hit that you can always tune into. And be patient. This is a path. It grows as we go. We grow along as we go along it. So it might get more like you want it to be. So that, honestly, the more retreats you do, the more the transition becomes kind of not that significant, really. Sometimes you'll start to think, well, the whole of life is a session, just one long practice session. Whether I'm sitting intensely with others for days, or whether I'm just going through my normal day. Life is a practice period, perhaps. What if it is? What if it's a continual opportunity to remember? And there are these different levels of remembering. First level is mindfulness, remembering I'm here, I'm aware, experience is going on inside and outside. Let me check in on it. Let me bring some calm and composure, some rest, some balance to the nervous system. Then another level of remembering is something like, wow, this incredible experience is arising. All this sensory experience of this moment is being given. I'm receiving it. Somehow I'm the recipient of the gift of this moment. And it's one great gift now. And then perhaps a third level of remembering is all this here now and me It's really one experience. It's one whole. I am part of this moment. I am, in fact, not just some little homunculus inside this skin bag. I'm this whole experience here. And then another level of remembering is, as one koan puts it, taken from the Diamond Sutra, dwelling nowhere, mind comes forth. All this is one mind, one heart mind, coming forth precisely sort of from nothing, from nowhere. This here, right now, it's nowhere. And it's actually a flicker, a flash. All this evanescent flash. Flashes again, flashes again, flashes again. That's another level of remembering. And then there's this heart. What is it going to do? What is it compelling me to do? How do I help? You know? Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, should we explore another question, Dan, if there is?
Yeah, there's one here for you. Wondering how we can bring our Zen practice to younger individuals, our kids, for example. Any suggestions for creating a time in the day to share with our kids or to answer their questions appropriately?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, yeah, it's I mean, I'll tell you, when we were bringing up our kids as kids when they were young, I really held back from sort of, I don't know, sort of imposing practice on them. And I'm in two minds about whether that was smart or not. There's a really nice documentary I saw, maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago or something, I can't remember, called the Inzaye, I think it's called. I think it's, as I remember it, it's an Icelandic word that means something like the sea within, the inner sea, SEA, sea. But it's spelled something weird like INNSAE or something like that. And it's about, the reason I'm mentioning it is actually, well, it's I thought it was a nice little documentary movie. It's about a woman working at the UN who goes through some kind of crisis and needs to quit and goes on a sort of journey of self-discovery that basically takes her to meditation. But in the course of it, she visits all these different contexts where meditation is going on. And one of them is a primary school, being like a K through 5 or 6, I guess, in the US, in London. And they becomes, as I remember, somewhat of a feature in the movie. These kids learning to meditate. They're calling it mindfulness, of course. I say, of course, because meditations may have religious connotations. The word meditation. So mindfulness is safer in a school context. And they learn about the amygdala and the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. So it's absolutely sort of rudimentary neuroscience of meditation. And there's one kid in it who he actually goes home and starts teaching his parents about it. And they all start meditating in his home. And, he's only 8 years old or something, 7 years old. And it's very, very sweet. So I'm just saying this point that there is quite a bit of mindfulness in schools. As our project, RGMI, with John and Yvonne, and Valerie's been contributing to it quite a bit lately, is all about helping teachers, and indirectly, mostly indirectly, helping kids, but also directly kids as well through meditation. We call it mindfulness, but yeah. And so in the home, yeah, there's a lot on meditating with kids. You can find it if you Google around. Some of the apps have meditations for kids. I mean, I think, the thing is to, well, you'll have your own sense of this as a parent, but I guess just trying to not make it burdensome on the kids. I mean, it'd be nice if it's something they want to do long term, and they don't feel is sort of being imposed on them. That would just be my take. Very lightly, very lightly. It's awful to impose our practices on children. I think it's brutal, actually, personally. I mean, the way some of the big religions have done it just seems awful to me. People have different opinions about that, I understand. I don't believe in imposing spirituality of any kind on anybody. If you can frame it as very simple personal hygiene of a sort, and if they want to do it, yeah. Okay, Dan, anything else? Or does anybody else want to speak up? Share anything?
That's all I have in the chat box.
Yeah, okay. Well, should we just, I'm just putting out the invite if anybody wants to, ask anything with their voice. Feel free to do the hand raise.
Henry, could you tell us where you are in the process of writing your book? It's been so wonderful to have you share that with us, and curious, where you feel you are in that.
Yeah, thanks very much for asking. Well, I'm with every single book I've written, I've been so wrong about that. always unclear. But I could say where I think I am is that I've got a rough, complete-ish draft, and I've got things to do to, I recognize, things I want to adjust in it and add and maybe take out, and then I'll have, I guess, a new rough complete draft, and I'll share it with a few people. Actually, this one I did share it, I think, with 3 people so far, and 4 actually. I've had very positive responses from 3 of them. The 4th was actually my mum, who wasn't so keen on it. she thought it was. She sort of seemed to think it was well done, but I did. There was something in it that she didn't really like, and I kind of thought she wouldn't like it, and I was afraid she might not like it, and sure enough, she didn't like it. But it sort of slightly colored her view of the whole thing, I think. But anyway, so that's something that I'm kind of trying to address. I want it to be so that my mum would not, bridle against it. It's not a long book, actually, and I hope it'll stay that way. Yeah. So, it might be that I send out a draft within the next month or 2, hopefully. It's an awfully slow business, I wrote it, actually, a year ago. And I thought, and I wrote it in about 3 weeks, and I thought I'd written the first half of a book. And the rest of the year, I wrote little dribs and drabs, kind of waiting for this second half to arrive. And then recently, during this sabbatical period, it suddenly occurred to me what if there isn't a second half and I've actually written the book? And so I sort of assembled what I had, and actually I was sort of handing it chapter by chapter to Claire, my wife, who was eager to read it. And I was astonished, after I gave her the first chunk, I thought, well, she's going to hate this, because everything she would like least in a book, and she loved it and wanted more. So then that galvanized me, and I kept trying to get the next chapter ready so that she wouldn't lose interest between chapters, So it made me work as fast as I could for a while to sort of put these various pieces I had together in some kind of semblance of an order. And so that really was what galvanized me into feeling quite, and then actually I also slipped into that. One of the bits that had come not in the initial writing of the book, but later, it came in a rush, and then the rest of the year I was writing bits and pieces slowly with lots of gaps. And I put one of those in to it. I thought it was needed there. And it was the one bit that Claire didn't like. So this is sort of boring. I don't think this belongs here. and she was sort of in a way right, it hadn't come at the same time as the rest of it. So I thought, well, I'll just trust that, Anyway, thanks for asking, Valerie. We're waiting for yours, by the way. Hope it's going to come before too long.
Help us.
So I have a comment. I don't have a question, Henry. And the comment is how much I've appreciated the direction to bring myself back to Mu, recognize that and have those two celebratory breathings, that breath, that celebratory, okay, I'm back. So just wanted to thank you for that. I mean, lots of other things, but that one has worked really well today.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for sharing that. And let's all take note, how good it is and how much it actually helps our practice if we get in the habit of, definitely don't be thinking, darn, I lost it again. No. It's hooray, I've come back again. Okay, get yourself into that habit and it'll help your meditation. Thank you. Glad to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have a question too regarding Mu. So yesterday, your instructions really helped me get into a great flow, a wonderful flow. The instruction about the ink brush, it was just phenomenal to me. It was like the first time I noticed that a meditation could be a piece of art, and that's what it felt like, and in that moment. And so that was that, and then the Mu would come naturally. It would flow like waves without me really doing anything. And then today was different, and I even tried out shorter Mus, and my mind was also a little bit more distracted. And sometimes the Mu, I would notice myself almost speaking it with my mouth, and it would be kind of even uncomfortable, or just, not really uncomfortable, just I was consciously doing it. And so then I was kind of struggling with that. Am I supposed to let it go? How am I going to let this go? Can I do I do something with my mind? Do I not do anything? Do I just stay aware, I guess? Is there any experience you've had, what kind of stages we might go through with Mu, and how we deal with that?
Yeah, thanks very much for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, well, I would say first of all, when we've had a lovely, clear, smooth, enriching time in meditation, don't be surprised when it doesn't stay that way. It's just in the natural order of things. And then, alas, it's in the natural order of the human mind that we will be disappointed and we'll think maybe we're doing something wrong and why can't it be like it was? In other words, we very, very commonly resist how it is. So, what to do about all that? Well, there are a lot of different things. One is nothing, just live with it. It'll pass. Just live with it. Just to see how that would feel. You know, it's like I've gone for a long walk. I found this beautiful trail. It's well beaten. It's dry. It's smooth. It's undulating up and down hills. And then all of a sudden, darn, this trail goes steeply up a plowed field that's wet, and all the mud is sticking to my boots. How dare it? I had this lovely path. It was a beautiful path. I loved walking on it. And I'm too far from home to go back. And I'm getting wet boots and muddy boots, and they're weighing 8 pounds each. And it's slippery. I mean, screw that. That's not the path I want. Well, what are you going to do? You know, it's a long journey. Maybe we just have to go through that. And we keep going. Sun comes out. It's nice and sunny. And all of a sudden, I'm thirsty. Well, it says on the map there's a drinking fountain 3 miles ahead. And I get there, and it's turned off. Somebody blocked it. Somebody turned it off, and I can't turn it on. Well, that's not supposed to happen. You know, the map says it's going to be nice water here, and there isn't. I'm even further from home. At least my boots have dried, and I've kicked some of the mud off. But darn, there's supposed to be water, and there isn't. We just go on, don't we? What else can we do? Gradually, maybe we start kind of just rolling with it. Sometimes it's nice, fulfilling. Sometimes it's just not. It's harder. I have to heave every moo over my shoulder. Every single one is reluctant. And is it worth it? Why don't I just stop doing moo? Well, you can, you're always free to do that. And you will anyway. There's times that you just won't stay on moo. The mind will wander. But what about if we just take it as a training? And the training is every time you come back, keep going. And then you find you lost it. Where have I been? I'm back. Here. Yeah. Good. Pick up moo again. That's the training. That is the training. Okay, now that's sort of not doing a whole lot strategically or tactically. So tactics might be, if we want them. Well, I suppose one, because I'm only going to give one right now. I mean, 2 minutes. It'll overload if I give too many. But I think probably the primary one would be look into the heart, solar plexus, sort of mid-body, mid-torso, chest and just below. Is there some resistance? Is there some reluctance? Is there some frustration? Is there something that's not entirely ready to let things be as they are right now? In other words, am I adding the suffering of some kind of resistance to the way my mind is right now? And if I am, it'll show up as some kind of sensation in that area. I will let that be there. I won't resist the resistance. I will allow the resistance. I will allow the fact that I find it a little bit hard just now. And I'll just stay with that. I'll let it be. I'll welcome it. And I'm going to just accept it and stay with it until there's just a little crack of love coming in for it. Just a little bit more than acceptance, a tenderness about it. And that will be the melting starting, and the ease just beginning to come back, and something a little bit new somehow coming out of it. And then I trust that that was something Moo somehow wanted to sort of show me. And then I carry on with Moo. Okay. So let's work on that basis and see how that goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That
Sure
was
thing.
very, very good. And I think I just got an insight through Moo.
Very, very nice. Good.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Okay, let's wind up now, and I can see the number 4. Dan, if there's anything to save, just would you save it for if there is? It doesn't matter if there isn't, of course.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Okay, would you mind saving them again, please?
Sure.
Thank you. And then let's have a like a, I don't know, 3-4 minute break, little leg stretch, and then resume.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Maybe back at top of the hour for Zazen.
Thanks very much, Dan, and everybody.